Who cares about your cost per lead? It's about your cost per case. You spend so much money to generate these leads. Personal injury and comp and mass tort leads are the most valuable clicks on the internet.
Sure.
And then you're cool with calling them 1, 2, 3 times. The truth is, people are busy. If you call them during just 9 to 5 and you hit them at work 3 days in a row, they're not gonna take your call. There is a really cheap way to get attention through social media that if you generate those leads, you gotta have a team that goes and follows up with them aggressively.
One case for that individual literally pays for the entire thing.
One case pays for them for the year. I've got a very special guest, Joe Dougherty, a legend in the Philadelphia area on radio and with tons of networking ability. We're going to be talking about a lot of valuable stuff for you today. Sit back, enjoy, and be ready for your mind to be blown today. Let's do this.
So first of all, Ethan, I am excited to be here. Okay, so much to talk about. And I'd like to introduce to our listeners and our viewers. Ethen is an attorney, an advocate for the injured. He's a firm owner and an entrepreneur, as the CEO and co-founder of Attorney Assist and Turnkey Ops. If you would, a little bit about yourself and how you got to where we are today.
Sure. So thanks for having me. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I know you have a lot of people that have been steady listeners of your show for a long time, and I appreciate this opportunity.
My pleasure.
So a little bit about myself. I am an attorney by trade and more of an entrepreneur as a day-to-day goes. I would define myself as like a builder. I love solving problems and building whatever I'm working on. Going back in time, I grew up in the Philadelphia area, went to Penn State, then Drexel for law school. I've never not had a Pennsylvania address. I grew up in a family of lawyers. My dad was a lawyer and has a firm. He actually just retired, but he had a firm in the Philadelphia area named Ostroff Law. And he has pretty much given up active practicing. But my dad's great uncle, or my great uncle, is Uncle High Mayerson, has a law firm out in Bertrandville. So sort of 3 generations of lawyers in my family. I always kind of grew up around it. So I always had an interest in especially the personal injury space, because I always was fascinated with the idea of selling yourself as a service. I worked for my dad's law firm right out of law school and really worked in more of a marketing and operations role, where I started discovering either day-to-day problems and how things ran that affected the client experience, like not calling clients enough.
Well, it's interesting. So I find your story absolutely fascinating because you're an attorney, okay? And your mission to serve 1 million clients, to advocate on behalf of 1 million clients, and in a lot, and you're doing it. I mean, it's happening, and you're doing it through so many different ways. I want to get into the law, and the firm a little bit, and segue into the business of law, because you obviously, as a practicing attorney, somewhere a vision came in regards to the challenges that law firms face. When you and I first met, immediately, I saw your vision for your company. I was impressed that literally immediately. Let's talk. What got you? You mentioned injury. You do workers' comp and personal injury.
Yes, I do. So my firm, Ethen Ostroff Law, we handle Pennsylvania comp and Pennsylvania personal injury. That would be auto, and we're specializing in premises in particular.
Sure.
Dog bite, general injury, actually hotel chain bed bug cases as well. How we kind of got started and I discovered the opportunity, it really did start while I was kind of working in that operations role at my dad's firm.
Sure.
I saw every single case that got opened, an average of 55 tasks were being assigned to case managers. And there was not a single case manager at the firm that called every one of their clients every 30 days, which was our rule. So I kind of dug in deeper, why aren't we calling our clients enough? Why are we getting motions to compel from defense? Why are we, not getting enough five-star reviews? It really came down to we were assigning the work wrong. So I looked at how do we get the work that people hate to do off their plate. So I started hiring offshore talent in the Philippines. And I delegated things like medical record retrieval, document labeling, police report retrieval, lien reduction. And I built a team of 10 people in Bacolod City, Philippines. And from that original 10 people, I took that concept, pitched it to a local firm here in Philly who now has about 100 people. And now we work with about 200 law firms across the country and have placed over 750 virtual staff, primarily in intake roles or in back-end administrative roles.
Okay. So, first of all, I mean, you know, what was your dad's first reaction when you started? Here you are, a young lawyer, right? And by the way, I absolutely love it because you're the legacy of your own role model. But you're talking old school and new school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole new age, right?
Yeah.
What was his first reaction when you started to make those suggestions? And by the way,
Yeah.
show him the stats.
Yeah, I mean, reasonably, they thought the quality of work was a fear. They were worried about clients being offended by accents.
I was going to
They were worried about, how are we going to communicate with these people? Are we going to be able to securely protect our data? What about HIPAA compliance? All of these things are legitimate concerns that, we've built solutions for in my staffing company now. At the same time as, not trying to divert attention, but at the same time as building out our offshore solutions, I also started running social media marketing. I was the third lawyer in the country on TikTok, and I ballooned to a few 100,000 followers on TikTok, which, kind of got me comfortable on camera and got me to start to realize that there is a really cheap way to get attention through social media, that if you generate those leads, you got to have a team that goes and follows up with them aggressively.
Absolutely.
Which led to more need in our staffing side.
Which is, really amazing because one of the most important, as you're speaking, my mind, one of the most important things is an intake and the culture of a firm. So when you're looking at these solutions, they're all automatically, in the equation. Talk about, okay, when we talk about the importance of intake, okay, and the culture of a firm. And what I mean by that is you're building that into what's going on. People are calling a law firm, and certainly intake is so important. I've seen, and I think we had a conversation about this, some really talented lawyers, who have done a fantastic job in the courtroom, but their intake, would be like having an awesome boat with a hole in it, right? I mean, the water's coming in. Talk about the importance of intake, okay? And also the culture of a firm in regards to those communications and dealing with the public, and how that impacted your business.
Yeah, sure. So, there's kind of a couple of important things to remember. Number one, personal injury and comp and mass tort leads are the most valuable clicks on the internet.
Sure.
So you spend so much money, and those who are listening to this, you spend so much money to generate these leads, and then you're cool with calling them 1, 2, 3 times and giving up for non-responsiveness. And there's sort of this misconception around, I'm only going to want to work with people who, will take my call. And the truth is, people are busy. If you call them during just 9 to 5 and you hit them at work 3 days in a row, they're not going to take your call. So staggering your calls and having a team willing to do so, it's really difficult to find stateside people who want to work from 5 to 9 p.m. or on a weekend.
Well, it's very interesting you say that too, because you can never tell when calls are going to come, right? And
Correct.
Having that team available, maybe after hours,
Yeah.
I've seen it where, and it really becomes a catch-22, where you have a firm that's you have talented attorneys there.
Yeah.
Okay, and yet the intake okay, is not 24/7, and or they don't have the proper services, or specifically after hours. One of the most frustrating things you can ever see. So you're putting all that time, you're doing social media, okay, like you mentioned,
Yep.
it's
And I was,
extremely expensive,
yeah,
and now, okay, you're not getting the calls that come in.
yeah.
You know,
Who cares about your cost per lead? It's about your cost per case.
absolutely,
No one cares how cheap you generate leads.
100%.
You have to turn that lead into a case. And what I think that listeners here, you may be doing, which is a really big mistake, is there are two lanes of the highway and they are not friends with each other. One is inbound coverage, the other is outbound. And if you are really, really good at answering inbound calls, if you have that same person also responsible with doing outbound follow-up, they're going to be really bad at it.
Well, what you're saying that I find incredibly interesting, because I profess this on a daily basis, minute by minute, is you're not talking about lead generation. You're talking about case generation.
Lead generation
Leads
is
the case.
part one.
Right.
You got to generate the leads. And I'm sure there are people listening to this that have tried a Facebook campaign and they think Facebook ads suck. And the reason is because it is a colder audience generating the lead. So you need to be more aggressive in how much you call them, because they didn't just search lawyer near me, are ready to buy. You caught them before they were even in a buying intent. So you need to go get them. For us, the industry average to convert a Facebook lead, if you're running pure lead generation, form fill on a Facebook ad, they click learn more, pre-populates first name, last name, phone number, tell me about your situation. The industry average in the legal industry is about 7% conversion rate on leads from raw lead to case. We're at about 18%. And the biggest difference is it takes us an average of 7 calls to convert a client. We know these things. We call, text, email 15 times over the course of 30 days with multiple touches in the first few days. And because we call the most, we win. And we don't let leads ever slip through the cracks. So, what people out here listening might be thinking is, yes, I'd like to follow up more, but who's going to do it? You got to think about, with my firm, my entry level position is an outbound follow-up specialist. They touch leads that have already been called twice, so they're lower risk, and they just do dialing out all day. They're not my same team that takes an inbound transfer. I call that my closers club. My closers club touches new leads, which is a form fill, a referral, a live transfer, or a scheduled callback. My follow-up team is my entry level position. They learn how to cut their teeth. They just dial out all day. And that allows me to protect both of those lanes of the highway from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week.
When you were, so when I think about how you got this vision, okay, working, with your father, okay, and the team there, which I'm sure was a great team, but at the same time, it's a new world. How much, by the way, how much did that working relationship with your father, okay, how much did that inspire you to actually, you put that together, you saw the success, decide to take it and put it together and offer it to other firms who are going through the same challenges?
Yeah, I mean, in the first year we started our company, which was January 2022, we started, people didn't even know what a virtual assistant was back then. Now people sort of know what it is, but are still like in the, I'm curious, but not ready to dive in. But, there are firms that have started the process with, 1 or 2 people that now, we had a firm that started with 3 people a year ago that just hired their 18th person with us this week.
Let's go down the actual services.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is there are one of the things that I did a show with Jim Beasley.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing, and Jim of the Beasley,
Jim and High are friends, my great uncle.
So
like his dad, the original
so
Beasley.
you're talking Beasley,
Yeah.
Temple Law, School of Law. And I said to him, and we had this conversation, and it's a big conversation. And by the way, you're teaching it on a daily basis, but they don't teach law, the business of law in law school. So when individuals get out of law school, and obviously there's a ton of things they have to learn about practicing, but then there is the business of law,
Yeah.
okay? And a lot of the things that you're talking about right now, okay, are there's a difference with for people who don't know. You're a lawyer, and then you're a lawyer and a firm owner,
Yep.
okay? Those steps of being can be very intimidating to take that dive into that. Let's talk about the services that you provide that make it possible, okay, for somebody to not have to worry all day long, especially
Yeah.
if they're starting a firm. But
Whatever stage.
yeah, well, you deal with big firms and
Yeah.
boutique firms, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Go through some of the services that you provide that firm owners at all sizes, but also new individuals opening firms, that you'll handle and they won't have to.
Sure. We like to describe where our sweet spot is as we focus on the stuff your team hates. So the whole business foundation is on the concept of delegation and the trickle up effect, which is something that I noticed at my dad's firm. The trickle up effect, there's really three categories of tasks in any business, let alone law firm and professional service. If you call a hospital, do you get the brain surgeon on the phone? Of course not. So why can I get the owner of a law firm on the phone for a fender bender? So what are there's three categories. There's your brain surgery tasks, your trial lawyer, they got to show up for a deposition, can't delegate that. You've got your sophisticated tasks, the stuff you hire trained paralegals for, your drafting of discovery, maybe certain pleadings, maybe, complicated legal motions that a paralegal will prepare for a lawyer to review, or dealing with a complicated client situation in litigation. That's sort of your paralegal bucket. Then your essentials really are over 50%, if not more, of the actual work that needs to get done to move a case from start to finish. So that's your document labeling. That's your opening case files in your case management system. That's your weekend and evening outbound follow-up on intake. It's the stuff you hate. So really our main kind of service buckets where we add the most value to our clients is to allow for the business owner to do the things they should be doing, which is the brain surgery, or even the business owner is really not any of those. They should be the architect designing how this works in a pipeline. But we take the essentials off your team's plate so they can focus on what matters. Our main buckets are intake. So that would be either inbound or outbound follow-up, and helping you build out an in-house intake team. And we're actually building out a fractional solution for clients right now called Intake 360, which will be sort of more like your bolt-on, spillover service, so that we can have a kind of wider range of clients we can serve. Or the consistent repetitive admin tasks. Maybe your firm, like every personal injury firm, is very behind on medical record retrieval. We have built medical record teams for firms, or maybe just consistent repetitive stuff that your firm in particular is behind on.
Talk about customization. So, you have everybody. I've had uh, attorneys on the broadcast, and it's a really interesting dynamic, the difference between individuals that are able to build massive firms
Mm-hmm.
and successfully, and you have, some of them are your clients, but also individuals that are boutique to the
Mm-hmm.
point where they don't trust anyone to do
Yep.
anything. Um, Talk about how you customize, a program for each type of client.
Yeah, so great point. So on the roles that are our staple roles, that would be the intake side and the general admin stuff. We do that work for so many firms that we have training that we give our people before they even show up. Then when they show up, we take it upon ourselves to co-manage that person with you and help make sure that the training is documented and that we help you build the SOPs that you're teaching our people. Because listen, like as you know, two firms using the same case management system might run that exact same case type completely different.
Sure.
Who does what, where it goes in the system. So I don't know how you do what you do every day. I don't know how firm A handles a car accident case versus firm B. Maybe they're using, the exact same case management system, but they've customized it completely different. So there is a layer of, hey, let us work with you to make sure this person succeeds and help you build that training for them so that there is a stick rate that you're happy with. Because if they turn over, it's bad for everybody. It wastes everybody's time.
You mentioned when we started that at your dad's law firm, they were a little concerned with communications, obviously accents and all those things. Talk about the feedback you've received and the success you've created in that area.
Yeah, great. So if we are hiring someone for an intake role, we are vetting for these things in our recruitment process. We share recordings of a few people. You say, hey, I want to meet this person, and then they're yours if you want them. We are pretty busy with asks of people. So we have like a lock period where you say, hey, I want that person, or hey, here's the recording. You have 24 hours to decide, or they're going to get released to another candidate. But we basically give you the opportunity to feel them out, make sure they would be good on the phone with your clients. But we are recruiting for that on the front end.
Talk about the magnitude of, firms, the team that you've put together.
So we work with firm sizes where they have one person with us, but we are actually shifting in a month or so to requiring 2 people unless certain roles are selected, because the only way for us to help firms get 7 days a week of coverage on intake is if they start with 2 people. And we have data that shows that retention is much higher and competitiveness in success between the actual candidates themselves is much better, and there's a team camaraderie with 2 people. We work with firms that have as few as 1 person now or as big as over 100. So, we have a local firm here in Philly that does Pennsylvania Comp, who was our first client, who now has over 100 people with us. We have a firm in Chicago who has over 75 people in the intake and medical records departments, a really big firm, Malman Law, out of Chicago. We also work with really big mass tort firms. So Environmental Litigation Group out of Birmingham, they now have 18 people with us. Levin Papantonio out of, they're the ones that throw Mass Torts Made Perfect every year, twice a year. They now have over 15 people with us.
Economically speaking,
Yeah.
Okay, obviously, business is a big part. Finance is a part of every firm. How can the services that you provide really economically save a firm from having to do it themselves?
Yeah, I mean, you can't sugarcoat that it is dramatically less expensive than a stateside alternative. Our starting rates when you have 2 people or more is around $2K per person per month for a full-time person working the schedule you want them to. So, you're talking $24K all in, no benefits on your side. That's all baked in. You're talking $24K for the hardest working culture fit that you can find off the street.
But if you look at that, okay, and the return on investment and the amount of cases that you're not losing, okay, and that you're retaining.
One case pays for them for the year.
Right. By the way, that's I was thinking the same thing. One case for that individual literally pays for the entire thing. And I imagine if you're doing a great job as an attorney, and it far exceeds that.
Correct. So to give you an example, go Google my law firm, Ethen Ostroff Law. I'm not trying to be obnoxious with this, but go Google my firm.
I have.
If you look at my firm, we have over 1,800 Google reviews. 100% of those Google reviews were retrieved by Filipinos, Central South Americans. There is no American at my firm who got a Google review. And we have over 1,800 in the last 2.5 years.
By the way, talk about the training that you provide, your staff from overseas, because obviously you're doing.
Yeah, so, this is something that I strongly suggest. You're starting a firm. Point 1, be very intentional about what you do, AKA the trickle up problem. And part 2, do, document, teach. That's one of our core values. If you are doing something, especially something you shouldn't be doing, like, getting a medical bill balance or something. You record yourself doing it, download a Chrome extension. It's called Loom, Loom. Loom records you and your screen, and just start with a spreadsheet. If there's one thing you can invest in that will scale with you and allow for you to get out of the weeds the fastest possible, it's to invest in training. And the way you invest in training is just start by documenting what you are doing that you shouldn't be right now. So literally record yourself, hey, here's how to reduce a lien. Here's how to transfer a call. Record yourself doing it, throw it on a spreadsheet, how to do this, and you're already starting to build your training library. We use a tool called Notion. Notion is our internal training repository. We've built, weekly refresher quizzes. We are the extreme of investing in a training department. We have multiple people. The person that leads our training department used to lead the Filipino T-Mobile training department. So she's, very well versed in, building out quizzes and training docs and being there whenever a question comes up. But I cannot underestimate how important it is to document what you do if that's what you want to replicate, especially documenting your best people doing that thing.
So, in a lot of ways, when I'm thinking about that, the company, okay, and the resources that you provide, if I was to in a sense, describe it, you're as a law firm, and in the world, of digital marketing and how competitive it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in a sense, you can't have one without the other. In other words, if you're spending and you want to do a competitive digital marketing campaign, which, by the way, we all know the big boys and the smart boutique firms are doing, it's very competitive. You absolutely need to, in order to maximize your investment, you can't have one without the.
Yeah, and I'm going to go even further than that and say I am staffing your competitors and helping them get better at their intake because it's the best thing for clients. If a client reaches out to you, it is your ethical duty to answer their question. And it is also, in my opinion, your ethical duty to get them on their phone to answer their question.
Okay. So it's interesting you say that because one of the things I always asked our attorneys when, whether they're guests or hosts is how they value the client attorney experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talk about that because this is our first conversation. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
I've done, we were introduced and I've heard, your reputation speaks for itself. And of course, I've heard a lot about you, but I'm learning more as your value of the client attorney law firm experience. Talk about that and what a client should expect, okay, and what a law firm needs to deliver.
A client should reasonably expect for a lawyer they contact to try their best at the core. That's what I promise to my clients. I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to get back to you. I'm trying my best to get you on the phone. I'm trying my best to make sure you are scheduled for your appointment. And I want to make it as easy as possible for you to interact with my team, my system, and easy as possible, and a promise that we are trying our best and we got to win. We got to have the results too.
So success, okay, the success of every law firm that is, that are at the top of the pyramid comes with the intake. Okay, in other words, without the intake, you have very little chance for success.
You can spend as much money as you want on Google, on Facebook, on TV ads. If you don't pick up the phone, you are not going to get that client.
I actually have had this conversation with, I'm sure, a lot of your associates that you do business with. One, and I won't mention his name, but he had a theory with his team. Okay, and they're a very successful firm, one that you may work with. His team, the big firms take it so seriously, intake, that I think his time frame was 5 to 10 minutes. A return call, okay? Because that client they're in often a very traumatic situation. You're in personal injury, okay, and workers' compensation. You're dealing with people at the most difficult moment of their life. They don't have time to get to an answering machine,
No.
to do those things.
If someone goes to voicemail, you might as well kiss them goodbye.
That's right, and that was his theory. You have to pick the phone up, number one.
That's inbound.
Right, exactly.
And let's say the call drops. You got to call them back. You got to be aggressive and get them back on the phone.
Talk about coaching your clients, okay? And because I've seen it. It can be a slippery slope, and dealing with the employees of that firm who are stuck in the in the old days.
Yeah.
And by the way, they may be young people with their own agenda.
So I'm a little aggressive about this. I'm going to be honest. So I don't tolerate that shit. I do not tolerate lack of being innovative. I don't tolerate it is because it has been. I don't tolerate because I have experience, I know more. I don't tolerate it. When I was, in another life, building out, part of my job when I was at my dad's firm was to move them from Needles case management to Litify. And I will not mention names, but it was like pulling teeth out.
Sure.
And it was not 0% of what burned me out to need to leave.
Well,
because culture change is way harder than buying some new tool. And if you are thinking about, listening to this and thinking about moving to a new case management system, for example, maybe you're on, Needles and you hate it and it's dated and it feels like you're in the 90s and you want to move to Filevine or Litify. All right, great. It's really easy to go buy it. Yes, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong. Very expensive to migrate to one of these things. But you're going to have a paralegal that you have had for 20 years who's going to be your biggest pain, who's going to soil the whole implementation. That's the expensive part.
Right.
You have to fire people over non-compliance on innovation and change.
Okay. So it's interesting because I did an internet campaign, with a client of mine. It was a it was a launch of a prototype, and we had a marketing company. And this is so important what you just said. So spending all this money on this fantastic, getting a ton of calls. The manager at that firm, was old school, and got her just out of the blue, got her son to do it. Okay, what they didn't realize was, and there was no professionalism there. It was a pain in her butt, as you know. This is what you're talking about. They can't get out of the dark ages. The firm owner, by the way, was fantastic, but he had a lot vested in this person. Well, what he didn't realize, what the woman didn't realize, whose son was doing it, was the calls were being recorded. Okay, at that point, you're in you can't tolerate if you want to succeed. If you don't want to succeed, I have a saying, and that is, you can do what you want, but you can't avoid the results, right? Yeah. Now, but I got the marketing guy who's doing a good job going, I'm going to get fired because they're not seeing results.
So I'll go even further than that. Let's say that there was another intaker. Let's say, a scenario that didn't happen. Let's say there were two intakers.
Sure.
And let's say one of them is an A player and excellent and works hard. And then there's your C player. And let's say that the C player is tolerated and not fired after C work, D work, C work,
Sure.
F work, C work, over and over again. Weeks go by, months go by. You know what happens to that A player? They leave because they feel disrespected for their hard work because you tolerate crappy work.
I'm going to take it another level, and that A level person might see the firm going down the tubes and saying, this is not working.
Not only that, if you tolerate C players, the best you're going to get out of your whole team is a B-.
No question about it. It's a very interesting area. Let's talk. Let's take it a step in the direction in this digital world. Okay. By the way, I absolutely, your story and what you've done with the company and how you've impacted so many firms, not only the firms but the clients. Who are in the worst situations of their life. You're not calling a lawyer at 9 o'clock at night, because the injury isn't bad, or you're not in harm's way, Okay, but and one of the issues we have a lot in this world is the complaint about lawyers is the communication.
That's the number one reason for malpractice claims.
That's right.
Yeah.
You are taking a lot of the complications out of that. There is no excuse. I often say, okay, that you could, when we talk on the radio and on shows like this, that you could be, the business of law is an interesting business.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the number one student at an Ivy League school. But if you don't have the communication skills and the ability to retain that client
and show empathy and just try hard,
100%, okay, you'll never succeed in the business of law. But let's take it to another direction. This is right. Google reviews. You mentioned Google reviews. Okay. You're starting a law firm, or you're in a law firm. And by the way, what you just said about the C player, well, let's talk about the consequences of being a C player. Because the A player doesn't want to even be around somebody like that.
Nope.
Because the results are many and obvious, and they go from losing cases, okay, not
Getting
losing
fired,
in the courtroom,
attrition.
right? You're not retaining cases that are called in. Number one, and by the way, you become a celebrity on Google, okay. In other words, people who are going through it today, it's not like when we were kids, or I guess I'll point in my direction but yourself as well, where they didn't have Google and people couldn't put you on blast immediately because Google's one of the first places people go. Yeah.
We get free cases because of our Google reviews.
Talk about the domino effect of not having that intake, but also having that that system that just drops the ball.
Yeah.
And if you're dropping, if you're not calling people back, there's chances that, I can tell you this: the guy that was answering that phone at 9 o'clock at night, what a disgrace. Okay. In other words, his calls mimicked his work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One goes with you're putting together a system that is, and you put together a team and a program for top firms to be successful at all levels. But talk about, making sure that, Google reviews and if people are successful in those areas as well.
Yeah. So, we have a saying at my firm. It's called commit or convert. No one is more important than the client you are currently on the phone with. So where are you going? Why are you sending paperwork and not waiting for them to sign it? Why are you sending them a Google review link and not waiting for them to fill it out? So part one, ask early. Why are you waiting until someone gets a settlement check to send them a Google review? Because that is opening you up to dozens and dozens of interactions with your firm, and one of them is bound to not make them that happy. So you're opening up the door for a 1-star review by not getting it on day one.
Okay.
So the way we get our most Google reviews is we ask at intake. We ask right after they sign our paperwork. They feel like they just had a win with my firm. I just went through a thorough intake, showed them empathy, answered their questions, and just signed up their case. They're a little excited. They feel like they just solved the problem. The sign up and the settlement are the two most exciting parts for a client. The rest sucks. So why not ask right after they sign up, get it, then you have it. Then that client would have to go back into Google and change it, which is a much harder thing for someone to actually do.
I had friends call me. I did Google reviews. It's a complicated process to try to edit that, or even add a second one.
You can't even add a second one. You could add a second one for a different location.
Yeah.
But if they already gave it to you and they gave you 5 stars, they're done. You don't need to ask for it anymore. It's over.
So when I look at the program you put together, okay, and I love that your attitude that you're not going to tolerate that. When you talk about second-rate service and because you're, in a sense, you're taking the back immediately of the owner of that firm. Okay, a lot of this, in my opinion, begins with HR. Okay, human resources. People, you're working hard to put together a team that's going to take the back of that firm.
I'm going to go one step further. So I hire 100% of the time on attitude and culture fit. I teach the skill. I think that we've gotten into this habit in the personal injury space of not investing in our training departments and needing to go hire someone with 10 years experience who's way more expensive because we don't have the training documents. It's just a little bit of a lazy approach. I'm sorry if someone takes that approach. I highly value bringing in an experienced supervisor to build training for other virtual assistants to report to that person, but I hire on attitude and culture fit. I like to listen, where are they, feeling a backlog? Where, do they what kind of practice? Where do they want to generate cases? What have they been trying recently? I want to learn from everybody. I am not so arrogant that I think I know all the answers. I take concepts that I learned from my peers because it's a more efficient way to get there. Um, when I meet a law firm owner for the first time, I really like to listen more than I talk. I like to understand their pain points and try to help them because I love solving problems. I actually enjoy that conversation.
Talk about your communication. We talk about communication. Well, one of the biggest challenges and criticisms when it comes to lawyers in general. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
is communication. When you have clients, law firms that are your clients, okay, um, and after talking to you for a while, you take their success as it's your own success. You take it personally, but talk about your communication. In other words, whenever you start something, I'm sure whenever if I'm a firm and I'm retaining your services, and there's moving pieces. Talk about your availability or your team's availability
sure.
to your potential clients.
Yep.
Doing when the relationship begins.
I don't sell my time because I don't want to get stuck selling my time.
Sure.
So I will just help when I feel I can. I will spend personal attention with people I like. I like becoming friends with people I work with because it's really fun to win with your friends.
Sure.
So I take an approach of like I'm open to being friends without all of my clients, knowing there's a business relationship there, of course, but I treat people like they're my friend.
Sure.
And that is a genuine approach that people appreciate. I'm coming from a place of actually caring about them because by caring about them, I'm caring about their clients and I'm fulfilling my mission. So, I by caring about their clients, I help, a million plaintiffs. By
That's
caring
good.
about their clients, my also other vision is to place a million jobs. So, I'm fulfilling my personal selfish mission by being helpful. So, if let's say somebody were to call us and want, two intake virtual assistants or what we like to call impact assistants for my company, they would be met with one of our account executives who I have personally trained to know how to answer every question that comes up about how to audit how a law firm runs, how to improve their intake department. We'll do an audit for free of their intake process so we can learn how they do it, how they chase us, and help them expose some holes. If they sign up with People, then they get a representative from our company that's like their account manager, so to speak. If it's a larger firm, we have a few stateside representatives that do this. We also use offshore experienced account managers that we really trust in our Belize office because we have physical space in Belize and physical space in the Philippines. It depends whether they want in-office folks. If they want in-office folks, then we're going to have an in-office manager for them. If it's somebody that's just getting remote talent from us for a little bit lower cost, then we'll give them a remote account manager. But everybody would have sort of a dedicated rep from us that will help them with hiring, growth, resources, termination, co-management, training, whatever we can help with.
Consulting.
Yes.
I
We like to
imagine-
kind of position them as consultants.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I say that because I saw it. In other words, I wasn't in that position. I was putting together the actual business and the concept. But I was 0 for 1 watching that. Your words So when somebody starts off something like, what happens when, you have a situation where somebody's utilizing the business, your people, obviously they've been
It's
trained,
people.
right? But you haven't, there may be some issues at the office.
Yeah, I mean,
How
listen,
do you handle? Do you consult? And when somebody calls you and says, "Listen, there's a break in the chain here," okay, I know
yeah.
where the break in the chain is. Talk about.
So that would be your account manager primarily. If
Gotcha.
it's a larger account, I personally will get involved in the background and or in the foreground.
Sure.
If there is like an emergency. And
And by the way,
listen,
I don't mean you personally. I'm talking about
well,
your team.
sometimes me personally, I will get involved.
Okay.
I love the problem solving, whether it's good or bad. There's no bad. It's all growth. It's either good or you grow. With
Sometimes you might have to have tough conversations with
Yeah, I
somebody
mean,
and say,
listen,
"Listen,
if you're dealing with a person, let's say they get, God forbid, they get hit by a truck and that was your only virtual assistant. You just spend all this time training them, you lose momentum.
oh, I don't mean it. I'm talking about somebody who works at the law firm."
Yeah, so when they engage with our service is a full time exclusive agent to their firm.
God, yeah.
That's our product, basically. Let's say there's a medical emergency, or maybe they're just not happy with that person. They don't feel like it's going as well as they hoped, or we don't feel like it's going as well as we hope, and we proactively tell them, hey, let's swap this person out. We have unlimited swap outs with our product. That's a part of what they're getting. But turnover isn't helpful for anybody. So we take getting that ramp off, ramp on process very seriously, and quickly we move to
How does
replace them.
AI? How do you foresee AI impacting your business?
Good question. So, you gotta be, you can't be ignorant to how powerful voice agent AI is going to become. I believe there is a blended solution that's gonna come. Um, just because AI is here, and yes, there's already technology today that probably could replace some of the task work of what we sell. And the law firms we work with, their data and their infrastructure isn't built to just plug an AI in and have it work. So we have like a little bit of time where firms are going to adjust their systems to be able to plug and play an AI to, label documents or go get medical records. The industry isn't there today to replace what our people do. And I think it will happen in the next 10 years. I think we're going to have to move into an AI product or our business will go extinct. So, where we envision moving is in our new product we're building, Intake 360. It's going to be a blended AI virtual assistant solution where the virtual assistants we have that are sitting in this phone system will be training AI that's learning from us actively. So in the future, maybe, a client calls, they get an AI right on the phone, and maybe that AI warms up the client, asks a few questions, and without them even realizing it, transfers them to a human. Or it might recognize someone's frustrated with the AI and then automatically transfer them. In time, it will get better than humans are, and it will be cheaper than humans are. We are not there yet, and virtual staffing based out of where we staff from is currently higher quality and cheaper. But I'm not ignorant. It's going to change things.
Ethen, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you,
Yep.
obviously.
Yeah. So, I know a lot of lawyers, entrepreneurs were listening to this. There's two sort of asks. Number one, if you are looking for staffing solutions, I'll make sure that there's a way that you can get in touch with me on that side. Separately, my law firm is growing, and we would love to be a referral source for, the attorneys listening to this for your Pennsylvania comp, Pennsylvania personal injury, and anything in that realm. We also handle New Jersey personal injury. So I would love to talk about building referral relationships with you. We take a really proactive approach to the way that we get referred cases. We send out weekly updates on everything we ever get from any of our sources so that they don't have to guess or come chase us down for, what's going on with Jon Snow, the referral from 2 years ago.
Sure.
It will be overly obvious how things are going, and we are really transparent with how we do our business.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure, obviously, being on the broadcast with you. What you're doing really is not only maximizing the efficiency and the success of firms, but also making it possible for those who are injured, whether in a work injury, whether a personal injury, to get the best treatment possible and the best representation in some of the most difficult times of their life. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Ethen Ostroff legal show on WWDB Talk 860. We also want to obviously give out a shout outs to Attorney Assist and Turnkey Ops, and of course Ethen Ostroff Law. On behalf of Ethen Ostroff, I'm Joe Dougherty. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for joining us.